Despite everyone's best efforts, being a seafarer is still one of the most hazardous jobs in the world. Sometimes the problem is that we have done things so many times, we start assuming that nothing can go wrong. This film is to remind you of the dangers and what you, personally, can do to keep yourself and everyone else safe. Ideally, you should watch this film with at least 2 of your colleagues, so that you can discuss what you've seen. We will ask you some questions at the end of the film, so that you can reflect on what you have seen and heard. When accidents and injuries happen, there were often good procedures in place, but personal choices can make a big difference.
I was working on a gas tanker. We had to chip and paint the deck. It was very hot work. Really hot. More humid. Terrible. I was sweating a lot. I was wearing goggles, but I couldn't see from the sweat. So I took off the goggles and just put on my sunglasses because there was a lot of sun. I carried on working like that. But that night, my eye was hurting from the dust. I tried to wash it, but the next day it was swollen and red. I saw the chief officer and he put in some drops and some green stuff to show the dust. But the next day, it was worse. When we got to Brazil, I saw a doctor. He said, "You have to go home," because my eye was infected.
The cornea of the eye is only half a millimeter thick and quite soft. The thin metal particle may easily penetrate if it comes with a high speed from a rotating tool or from hammering on metal. It's not only the pain and suffering when the injury happens, but it is countless visits to the ophthalmologist the following years due to complications such as keratitis, glaucoma, cataract and retinal detachment. Often there is need for several operations. You will need your eyes the rest of your life, and you will regret it forever if you lose your sight because you did not take a minute to pick up your safety glasses.
We hear the phrase safety culture a lot, but what does it mean? There is no agreed definition of the term safety culture. The International Chamber of Shipping says that there are 3 key components to developing an effective safety culture. Commitment from top management, measuring current performance and behaviour, and modifying behaviour. That may all be true, but on many ships you would soon recognise if there was not a safety culture on board. If people are not using PPE, or it is in poor condition, if the gangway is not properly rigged, if the pilot ladder is in a poor state, if security procedures are not very strict, and so on. If work areas or escape routes are partially blocked, if there is loose gear or cables lying around, causing a tripping hazard, if people stand around with their hands in their pockets, not paying attention to safety briefings and toolbox talks, then there is not a good safety culture, and this behaviour needs to be challenged. Evidence of a good safety culture is that everyone demonstrates safety awareness and responds positively to training, and that there is good teamwork and strong communication. There should also be a desire to improve procedures and maintain a good safety record. Evidence of positive safety behaviours are shown when the correct PPE is worn and when there is good housekeeping and well-maintained equipment throughout the ship. The ship's safety culture begins with the safety and familiarization tour that everyone joining a ship must be given. Familiarization training is required by both the ISM code and STCW. As a minimum, you must become familiar with emergency muster stations and alarm signals, firefighting equipment, life-saving appliances, escape routes and emergency exits. The content of your familiarization training will change depending on the type of ship and your job on board. For instance, you should also be given familiarization training for any security duties you have on board. A big part of any safety culture and a requirement of any safety management system is that accidents are properly reported and investigated. Definitions of accidents, incidents and near misses vary from one country or organisation to another. But here are some typical definitions. An accident is an undesired event resulting in harm to persons, environmental pollution or damage to physical assets. An incident is an undesired event resulting in damage to assets, equipment or the environment. A near miss is an undesired circumstance with the potential to cause harm, injury, ill health, damage to equipment or to the environment. It is probably best not to worry too much about these definitions because they do vary across the world and they are often used loosely, even in official incident reports. Let us just say that incident tends to cover most things that we didn't want to happen, and accidents tends to be used more when people have been hurt. A near miss is what it says. Nobody got hurt, nothing got damaged, but we had a lucky escape. There is a close connection between near-miss incidents and serious injuries. Many studies have been done over the years and all show a similar pyramid-shaped relationship between near-miss incidents, injuries and fatalities. Exact numbers differ with time, the type of work and the culture about how many incidents are reported. But the shape of the pyramid remains very similar in all cases. If near-miss incidents are reported and investigated, their root cause established, and measures taken to stop them happening again, then we can prevent further incidents, injuries and deaths. Throughout the world, different authorities have different rules about which incidents must be reported, and your own company will also have their own rules. However, the pyramid relationship shows that there will nearly always be some benefit in reporting and investigating incidents. The ISM code means the International Management Code for the safe operation of ships and for pollution prevention. The ISM code requires us to have a safety management system, SMS, on board. This management system requires that we have procedures for operations which might put safety at risk or cause pollution. Rules come from a number of sources: flag state, port state, the IMO, company procedures, risk assessment, safety data sheets. SOLAS says how the ship is built and also contains the ISM code, which says that the company must have a safety management system, SMS, which includes having procedures that you must follow. Flag state and port state regulations. Sometimes there are additional rules which must be followed depending on where your ship is registered and where you are in the world. STCW, which says what training and competence people on board ships need. Safety data sheets, which tell you what precautions you need to follow for hazardous substances, including chemicals and cleaning agents. And risk assessments, which are carried out by those on board to try and identify and then protect against any risks on a particular job. Despite of all the rules, regulations and procedures, accidents still happen. Why is this? One theory put forward for why accidents still happen is that there are always weaknesses or holes in any rules, regulations or procedures. So no matter how many layers we have, if we are unlucky, then some hazards can sometimes pass right through and cause us damage. That is one theory. However, let's look at some of the risks we face at sea and some examples of accidents, incidents, and near misses. Why did this accident happen? Any chemicals, cleaning products and so on should come with a safety data sheet. This contains much more information than the basic warnings given on the label. Get into the habit of checking the safety data sheet before you use chemicals or cleaning agents. Personal safety is an issue for everyone on board, not just those working on deck or in the engine room. Along with the heightened risk of slips, trips and falls, kitchens are home to spills, cuts, burns and crush injuries. Other common occurrences include electrical and fire hazards, the possibility of dehydration and the potential for muscle strains. As hazardous as a kitchen can be, when that same environment is put on a ship, those risks increase considerably. Heavy weather, vibration, and even regular rolling in a seaway mean that surfaces can be unstable, hot liquids can spill, and sharp items can fall. Cuts are common, with the likelihood increased by the added threat of the galley moving under the increased movement of the ship when it is at sea. The same is true of burns, with the added hazard of cooking oil splashing up. Carrying boxes around can obscure your view and lead to trips and falls. This can potentially lead to serious injury if this also involves moving up and down stairways or around other obstructions, such as sills and storm steps. The doors of the refrigerated rooms are heavy and can cause serious injury to crew members if they are struck by a swinging door that has not been properly secured. Ovens, fryers, cutters, glassware, detergents and cleaners. But these are just a few examples. A list of the risks inside the galley could go on and on. These hazards will always exist, but effective assessment and management can control the risks and maintain a safe working environment. Personal safety is not just about keeping yourself safe. It is about making sure you don't hurt anyone else. You might be protected, but how might what you are doing affect others? When you use the welding set, you do not only need to think of yourself. You might be wearing the right PPE and have a visor or mask, but anyone else coming into the workshop is at risk of eye damage from arc flash. Make sure that the welding curtain is in place and always warn others in the workshop when you are about to strike an arc. When people talk about a safety culture, it means that everyone takes the safety message seriously. They don't think they know better or that somehow they are immune to injury.
I don't think it was just one ship. I think it was because of lots of ships, and for many years. I worked in the engine room, but you think it's not too bad because you are inside the noisy area just for a short time. And then I remember a friend. He was hit by a truck that was reversing because he was wearing ear defenders and could not hear it. I hated wearing ear defenders, and when I was younger I got into trouble with the chief engineer for not wearing them, but still I never wore them. I was young and I guess I was a bit crazy then. I think I knew for the first time I had a problem when my wife, my ex-wife, kept telling me, "You've got the TV too loud. You've got the TV too loud." Then I went for a medical examination, and the doctor said I had a problem with my hearing. I had to do more tests, but it was too late. There was too much damage. They said they could not help me, and that I had to wear a hearing aid. But it was too bad, too much damage to my ears. And so I lost my job.
Don't think that it's going to be all right not to protect your ears in a noisy environment, even if it's only for a short while and it doesn't seem to hurt. Always use hearing protection. We have already looked at all the layers of rules, regulations and procedures that are there to protect us. However, you should have also noticed that many of the accidents we've shown have been the result of people not following procedures, either because they were not aware of them or because they chose to ignore them. Now, let's see how the job should be done. First of all, we need to get the right permission in advance to do the work. It may not always be safe to take something out of service, even if it is only on standby. After confirming that the pump can be taken out of service, it can be switched off and isolated. Isolation means that we create some physical separation from the electrical supply and the item we are working on. To keep things safe, we apply a lock and a tag. Before starting work on the motor, we need to be sure that we are working on the right piece of equipment and that there is no electrical energy still present. Your own ship's procedures might be slightly different, but the basic principles are the same. Get permission to work on equipment and make sure that the right people know you are working on it. Make sure you are working on the right equipment. Identify it by getting someone to switch it on and off if necessary. Switch off and isolate the equipment, and then apply your lock and tag to keep it safe. In this module, we've seen that there are many rules, regulations and procedures in place to protect you. One theory is that accidents can happen if there are any holes in these procedures, which can leave you at risk in certain circumstances. That can happen. But it is far more likely that it will be your actions that will make the difference between having an accident or not. Procedures are there for a reason. PPE is there for a reason. Be part of the safety culture on board ship and keep yourself and others safe. Would you say that your ship has a good safety culture? What needs to be improved? Did your familiarization training prepare you well enough for your duties on board ship? What things could have been done better? Does everyone on your ship always report accidents or near misses? If not, why not? We saw several examples of injuries because people were not wearing the correct PPE. Does this happen on your ship? If so, when and why? What should you do if you see someone working in an unsafe way? Is there anything that stops you taking action when this happens?